This is the Movie Reel. We bring you a rotating panel of movie enthusiasts for some good, some bad, but always fun movie discussions. Be warned, spoilers are in effect. So grab your favorite movie snacks and sit back while we cue up the cast. All right, hey everybody, we are back this week with the Movie Reel. We're going to be talking about the Batman on the Movie Reel. So this will be a fun one. Heather is back to join me.
Hello, I'm back.
We've been having fun with our Halo stuff that we're doing for the limited series, and we had the opportunity to watch Batman in the mix of all of our things, this 3-hour behemoth, right?
I know, right?
We made it happen though, guys.
Did. That's unusual for us during the week.
This is very true, very true. So we did just watch this. It's a few days ago. You'll probably be listening to this a little bit after the fact of us watching it, but is pretty new on HBO Max now, which is great. That's we had to wait for that for children. Our kids would watch this movie. Like, it's not like we would stop them from watching it. Maybe some parents would, but we aren't those parents. But taking two kids to a theater for 3 hours,
that would have been mini bathroom breaks.
Mini bathroom breaks. And I will have to say, though, started this movie, I don't think I did a bathroom break at home. I'm pretty sure I sat there the whole time.
You did.
That's already a pro, guys. So
Yeah.
that's a big deal, that it can keep your attention enough to make you forget that you have to go to the bathroom an hour and a half ago or whatever. But it's a long one. Yeah, 2 hours, 56 minutes long. Robert,
It didn't feel long though.
No, it didn't. I really do think the pacing was good.
Yes, the pacing was really good.
Yeah, I think they did a great job. And we'll talk about the pacing as we continue too. Robert Pattinson is the Batman in this movie now. And you know what? I've always been on board with just let's do something. Like I'm cool with let's see what happens. You know what I mean? They've had a lot of bad Batmans out there, bad Bruce Waynes. George Clooney, number one, worst of both.
Yes,
he was the worst Batman. He was the worst Bruce Wayne.
Agreed.
You do agree? Okay, because I was going to ask you on that. So we're talking the Batman, so we're going to have to start off talking about the old Batman. So you have kind of a contrast to see how we feel about them.
Like Batman.
So we're going to talk in the beginning here for just a few minutes, maybe, about how we like Batman in general. And then we'll get into the movie. But let's start with the very beginning. Let's go. 1966 Batman, Adam West. I know you haven't seen a whole lot of them.
I haven't seen a whole lot of them, but I just love how like campy it was. And it was like the bat phone and the Batmobile. I mean, obviously
shark
Batmobile,
repellent bat spray.
The Batwing, and like everything was bat TV, bat phone, bat everything.
Iconic, right? Like,
yes.
I mean, it's super iconic. Adam West.
Yes, Adam West is super iconic as Batman.
His voice and everything he did with his career later, and he was a hilarious guy.
Yes.
So it's fun when you know that he's a funny guy in real life to go back and watch the Batman.
It makes it even funnier.
Yeah, the show and everything.
It makes it even campier, and I love that kind of crap.
Yeah.
That's
like,
up my alley.
They leaned into the funny in that one, and super kid friendly too. So those are pretty cool. The movie is just pretty awful, but it's just that right amount of awful that it's pretty okay.
Yeah.
Not amazing or good, I wouldn't say, but it's an okay movie. I would agree. He was just very campy. I liked it. Yeah, I would agree with what you said on that. That's where we got the holy, whatever Batman, all the fun Robin lines too. So then after that, it was quite a big stint. If we go into only in the theater stuff, that's when we have some Tim Burton action.
Yeah.
We get Michael Keaton as Batman, right? 1989 Batman. Yep. That one turned the tide for a lot of Batman fans, I think.
I think so too. And not just Batman, but like, I don't want to get into everything, but like that made comic book heroes irrelevant again.
Yeah, they did.
Like mainstream, I should say.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, you had Superman that was before that too, with Christopher Reeves and everything. But I think that one did something that people didn't think could be done. I mean, this Batman movie did. The 89 Batman was like, there's no way they could make Batman cool and do all the stuff he does. And They
but
did.
they did.
Yeah.
They
And he had a really
did.
cool Batmobile, and it was just a different look of Gotham, but it was, I think, the right look, especially for the time. Just very dark, and
Yeah.
there's not really any sun shining in that whole
No,
thing.
but it was like it was dark, but it wasn't like so like take itself too seriously. You know
No,
what I mean?
not dark in feel,
Yeah,
more dark in
yeah,
look.
yeah,
It had a little bit of darkness to it with, certain things, happen to the Joker and whatnot, but
yeah.
love me some Michael Keaton.
Mm.
Yeah. And a lot of people didn't realize, like, he was Beetlejuice before he was Batman. And people were like, Beetlejuice is going to be Batman. And they were all like, no way. Like, this is not going to work. There was a lot of scuttlebutt of like how bad that movie was going to be because of that. And then he killed the
And
role.
he was awesome.
Yeah. He nailed.
How could he not be? It's Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Man, he was Bruce and Batman.
Yes,
so
he
good.
was an amazing Bruce and an amazing Batman. Because there are some who do a good Batman, but not a good Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, okay, let's not see more of Bruce
Mhm.
Wayne. Like, let's just be Batman in this movie.
And Michael Keaton got to do 2 movies, and both of them were really good.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching them both. Recently, I had myself a little bit of and it was just unbeknownst, like my brain was just like, watch some Batman. So I started them and just watched all 4 of the OG ones, that came out in the 80s and 90s. And then we move on to Val Kilmer, who he played an okay Bruce. He was
not a good Batman.
Not a good Batman. Not a good. And it, like, the way he tried to change his voice.
Ugh.
And the thing about it, if you think about the voices, because that's always a thing, everybody knows that, Batman always has to change his voice. Yeah. Unless you were Adam West or Michael Keaton, you didn't change your voice.
Change your voice.
Like, you were just both.
They were cool, man.
You weren't figured out that you were Batman from your voice. It was because you didn't look like him. People aren't putting the voice with a bat mask or whatever you want to say, right? So he was kind of the first one that, when he gets into the suit, like, they have the terrible thing that happens in that movie where, like, he's like, can't I persuade you to take a sandwich, sir? And he's like, I'll get drive through. Like, he just, like, he changed his voice. Like, he just gets deeper, like, like, as Batman.
Almost too deep and gravelly. Like, sometimes I had a hard time understanding what he was saying.
Yeah.
Like,
and then
what?
And then the writing was terrible in that movie anyway.
Yes.
But if we're focusing just on Bruce and Batman, he was an okay Bruce. And I mean, just okay. He was not a good Batman. He was a bad Batman.
Probably my least favorite Batman.
Really? More? You just said Clooney earlier.
Well, I mean, no, like I meant movie wise.
Oh, movie Batman.
Movie wise.
Forever's worse than Batman and Robin for you?
I don't know. There were pieces of Batman and Robin that I feel like were like saving the movie.
I will have to say that, just crystal clear for everybody in the audience, Jim Carrey is my guy. I love him.
Yeah.
And I really, really loved him at that age when I was younger and watching these movies, because I was only like 17 or 18. I might have been younger than that, actually. I might have been only like 15. But Jim Carrey in anything, I was like, I'm down. And to see him be the Riddler, I was like, hell yeah. So that was a saving grace for Batman Forever for me, was seeing Jim Carrey kind of be a comic book character. It's kind of cool. But what saved Batman and Robin for you? I'm curious.
I don't know if it was just like how old I was when I first saw the movie.
Hot Alicia Silverstone in an outfit.
Yeah. Come on. Duh.
I mean, Batgirl. I mean,
I don't know. Maybe it was just like I was actually like about that age, being like able to watch movies I wanted to watch. Okay. And that was probably one of the first movies that like I got to watch that I wanted to watch. Like my grandparents had, Dish TV. It was the thing back then. And so like movies are on TV and you're like, okay, I'm gonna watch this movie.
So similar, like an actor saved the movie for me, and you, like, a memory or like a moment in life saved it for you.
I mean, I will say, if I never watched either of those movies again, Batman Forever or Batman and Robin, I wouldn't shed a tear.
Yeah.
No, I'd be like, meh.
Yeah. I have the head, right? I have the brain. I could just watch them anytime in my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're fun to watch every once in a while. Yeah, they're just campy and bad.
When you put them on, I just was like background noise. I didn't even really pay attention. Like,
oh, I did. I really liked picking apart the script in the third movie, the Forever movie. Anyway. Yeah. So George Clooney, by far the worst Batman out of all the ones we've discussed here, and better Bruce Wayne than Val Kilmer.
I will agree with that. And I think the only reason they put him in this movie in that movie was because at that point in time, like he was the hot ticket.
Oh, he was star power guy.
Like it was like, oh yeah, we got George Clooney in a Batman movie. He's gonna make a good Bruce Wayne. We don't care how he is as Batman.
And he was like living his real life as Batman because he was this single bachelor,
like Bruce
rich.
Wayne. Like he was Bruce Wayne in real life.
He could be Batman because he's single and he's rich and he could do it. You know, like some Hollywood exec, you know, that was thinking that up, called his agent up, and they were like, "Let's go,
do it.
Sign the $50 million check. We're good." But yeah, Batman and Robin, I just think is a bad movie. Like the special effects are bad and everything's bad about it. But so continuing on the Bruce Wayne Batman train, we get up to Christian Bale's.
Aww.
Okay, yeah. So all right. So how's he rate on scale? I mean, out of all the other four that we're at.
So I will have to say that Michael Keaton is my number one.
Okay.
But Christian Bale, I mean, it's like a sliver of a hair.
As both?
As both. Okay. As both. Like, okay. I just thought Christian Bale was amazing as both Bruce Wayne and Batman. Like, the Dark Knight series, they couldn't have picked a better actor for me to play those roles.
Well, what did you like most about like his portrayal, or was it like something
like it
specific?
Just felt so natural, like with the writing and his acting, and he kind of came out of left field. Like I thought Christian Bale in the Batman movie, like, oh yeah, how's this gonna go? But like then he freaking came out and was like, I am Batman, like I am Bruce Wayne, I nailed this fucking movie, and it was like, that's awesome.
He was the opposite of a Clooney situation if you think about it this way. Clooney, super mega huge popular star, doing millions and millions of dollars per week, you know, every time a movie came out. And Christian Bale was doing all these kind of like smaller roles and these real artsy roles and all these things, you know, like he did the Machinist, I think it was, before he did Batman. And the Machinist, he was like dying and like
he was so small and
he lost all that weight,
and then he had to gain it back and bulk up.
Gained it back and became Batman. What? So he did the opposite because he kind of went from kind of not nobody, but he went from like somebody, lesser known actor to this like, holy hell, who's this guy? We all love this guy. He's doing an awesome job as Batman and we love Batman. So we're winning all around.
Yes.
And, you know, Christopher Nolan killed the writing and the directing. And he nailed the movie.
Yes. Those movies, like, if you ask me if I want to watch Batman movies, I'm going to be like, let's just watch the Dark Knight series.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it.
They are really, really hard to beat. You're absolutely right. The most recent, I should say, right, before the Batman is the Batfleck, right? So Ben Affleck as Batman, you know, he was good. I think he was good at all of them. But I'll be honest, like I kind of don't count him because he didn't do his own movie. Like my brain doesn't think of him as a Batman. I think of him as like a Justice League Batman or something because it was Batman versus Superman, you know, that he really did it in. And then the Justice League movie. And then he had small little pieces in Suicide Squad. Mm-hmm. And was he in Harley Quinn? Was he in that too? Did he do Birds of Prey?
No, he was not in Birds of Prey.
Okay. So I think those were it, right? Or am I forgetting any of them? So it was just Justice League and Batman versus Superman, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then he did the little thing for Suicide Squad. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm forgetting anything.
I don't think so.
Tell us what you think about Ben Affleck.
He's okay. He did.
I know.
Good.
I know it's Affleck, by the way. But
yeah.
I that's just me.
Funny. He was good as Batman. Like I did think his Batman was decent. Didn't care for him as Bruce Wayne. Of course, we didn't see a whole lot of him as Bruce Wayne because he was
not a bunch,
obviously fighting in the movies. But I don't know. It's just weird. Ben Affleck as Batman.
He had an awesome suit, and I think he was a really good Batman.
I mean, he had a lot of cool toys and gadgets,
but he lands in the okay column overall.
Yeah, overall, he's just okay.
Like. I could have watched more of him as Batman, and maybe it would have grown on me and been better. But what was you going to say? More of it's for what again?
I totally lost my train of thought.
Oh, okay. Okay, fair enough.
I mean, I don't know. He was okay. He was all right. Like I forget he exists because, like you said, he's in a different like universe realm
Yeah.
type of thing. It's like he's in the part where DC tried to do what Marvel was doing and failed horribly.
Right.
And you just kind of brush it under the rug and move on.
And they tried to do, an older, more gray.
Up.
Well, maybe not. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if they were wanting him to be beaten up, but he was gray-haired Batman in a way. I mean, he had like the touch of gray going on in his head, but I liked him as Batman. I did like him as Batman, but that's just because you see him more as Batman probably. And then like the same thing, like him being in his own universe with all the other superheroes just changes it all together. So in a way he doesn't fit in this like podcast because he's in like a different column. He's in like column B of Batman because he was never in his own Batman movie.
Yeah.
It was Batman versus Superman and then Justice League. So it's like there was no movie called Batman. He was, supposed to direct one and star in one, and then that all just kind of went to shit and didn't happen. So we never got to see any more of the Batfleck.
Nope.
Just the 3. And I did look it up while we were talking there a little bit, and it is just a 3. I'm not wrong about that, at least. Okay. Unless we count Zack Snyder's Justice League,
which
then
is
it's 4. He
just longer.
He played the Batman from the future more in that movie, which was the best of the Justice Leagues. Honestly, it really was, even though it was a long movie, just like the Batman is 3 hours long. Justice League was over 3 hours long, if I remember. I don't remember the exact runtime, but yeah. So anyway, that's kind of our take on Ben Affleck as the Batman. Just kind of okay. He's better than meh.
He's just there.
He's better than meh. She don't know what she's talking about. He was better than meh. He at least did both roles okay. Yeah. He was not dislikable in either role. Val Kilmer, dislikable.
That is true.
George Clooney, dislikable.
I'll give you that.
Right. Come on. Not
I'll
good.
Give you that.
Not good versus okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still not in my top 3.
No. Like I don't want to run out and watch those movies because Ben Affleck is Batman. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, oh, let's watch a Batman movie and watch Batman versus Superman. No.
Yeah, I pick those up less often.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. Henry Cavill is Superman, though, by the way. Most underrated Superman movie in history. That movie is great.
We'll agree.
But that's a different podcast.
Yeah. So. We're talking about Batman, not Superman.
That's right.
Even though he's kind of flew his way in and out of this.
He has. nice one.
Nice one.
As far as Batman goes, I mean, nobody beats Keaton for me. It just nobody. Like Christian Bale, he would be number 2 for me. But I'll tell you.
But it's not as close of a race, like for me.
No, he's like, all right, I like this Batman. I can get down with it. I can get down with a billionaire playboy, younger Bruce Wayne. I'm okay with all that. Because he was definitely meant to be a lot younger than Keaton was when he played Batman, as it was written. But I'm a Keaton fan, man. I think he was great Bruce. I think he was great Batman. He played them both the way you would expect. He was like, he even played the role, like he didn't go as deep into as nowadays when people do, but he played the role of Bruce as a broken man. Like you could tell there was something wrong with him, but he just acted it. He never really explained it. It was never in any of the dialogue, but you could always just tell there's something off about Bruce. And you as the audience, knowing you are a Batman fan, you knew. You're like, okay, he's broken because, family and, everything going on that went on in his history and stuff.
I do think like if you think about the Batman world, like the Batman world that was portrayed with Keaton, like he was a perfect fit for that.
Yeah.
You think about the Dark Knight world, Christian Bale was perfect for that.
Yeah. Yeah. They definitely took Keaton from like the comic books and just put him on the screen.
Yes.
Like it was a very comic book built world. The world, you could tell was CG'd and, drawn back then because they didn't have a ton of CG. And then when they did Christian Bale, they made it a grounded Batman. Yeah. Like the stuff he did was built by somebody. It was, the tech wasn't real or anything, but they made it seem real a lot like they can do with most comic book movies is make them feel grounded, which makes a huge difference when you're, watching them as the audience. You really connect more
Right.
with all of it.
When it's not outrageous.
Exactly.
Like Mr. Freeze.
So yeah, I would say that. And then we get on to Mr. Pattinson here, who is, I mean, like
vampires turn into bats.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. His him living up to Batman was, he had to spend 14 years pretending to be a vampire in Twilight.
The broody, yeah.
To become the broody Batman.
Yeah.
That's just a meme that's going around everywhere right now. Yeah. It's great. So that was him working toward Batman, is just being shit on from Twilight. So I've never had a problem with Pattinson. Act, do your movies, do whatever. I'll admit I liked the first Twilight movie. Heather and I had a very like connected moment watching that movie, and it like matched kind of our relationship in a way. It was just kind of weird to say.
It was weird,
but
it was cool.
When you watch it back, and even to this day, it was playing the other day when we were at my dad's house. It's random. The first Twilight movie comes on, but yeah, it was just like, okay. But then they got really bad. Like, I'll admit, they turned to crap. I didn't think they needed to make any more.
No.
But seeing Pattinson as Batman, the first thing I need to tell all the audience.
Hold on.
Yeah.
What was your initial reaction when you found out Robert Pattinson was going to be playing Pattinson was going to be playing Batman?
My initial reaction?
Yeah.
Well, I'm like everybody else probably. I was like, how's he gonna sound? Like, that was the first thing I thought. My initial reaction was like, because immediately you go to Christian Bale. Everybody does that, because that is the atypical Batman now. It's like, I'm Batman. You know, like everybody just drops their voice. And I'm like, how's he gonna sound? And then I just kind of let it go until they showed the first picture of him on the motorcycle. And I went, I'm in.
Yeah. It took me a lot longer. It actually took me watching the movie. Okay. I was like,
spoilers.
I was like, no, this scrawny guy from Twilight. Like, how is he going to play Bruce Wayne and Batman? Like, Bruce Wayne to me is, he's a millionaire. He's suave. He covers his tracks. Like,
got to put together usually.
He's put together. Like,
usually, yeah.
Robert Pattinson is not put together. Like, what?
Well, but how could you say that? That doesn't matter. Like, if the actor's not put together, it's not going to portray into his acting.
But I saw how he acted in the follow-up Twilight movies.
Oh, so you're saying you're not saying Robert Pattinson as a person. You're saying Robert Pattinson as an actor on screen.
On screen. I have not seen him in anything that I was like, oh yeah, he could do these heavy roles.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was like, who the hell decided this? Like, who did he pay to be like, hey, put me in a Batman movie?
To be fair, though, he has done heavy roles. We just have not seen those flicks.
Okay.
We haven't watched them.
I've watched him in Twilight, and I was like,
well, I will admit, I'm going to go back and watch some of his heavier roles that he took because of Batman. Because
I'm always going for movies.
Absolutely. we're going to get into it here because I am impressed. Like, I was impressed.
Okay, are we talking about Batman now? The Batman.
Batman. I was impressed with Robert Pattinson. I was blown away.
I will admit. I was like, I'm not on this train. Like, he was in freaking Twilight and had sparkly skin. Like, what the heck? And then this movie, like, I was game. I'm in. I was like, this is awesome. Like, I wouldn't even mind going back and rewatching it again already. Like, It was good. I will say.
Yeah.
I was blown away.
Yep. And, we had one of the movie moments where we didn't say a word as we watched the movie. Like, we were just like focused, paying attention. Is one of the movies that you have to pay attention because the Riddler's doing some crazy shit because he is the bad guy in this movie. You do get to see, the Falcone family's around and Penguin's in there, but Riddler is number one. And it's a totally different take on the Riddler. So you can't even like think of where he's going to go next, which is very cool. As watching, like you want to go along for the ride, and it was a really good ride. It was really but it was just super like, okay, trying to figure out maybe the next step, what's going on, what's this riddle mean? Okay, I didn't get that one, that kind of stuff.
And then you think, I got it figured out, and then sometimes you're like, whoa, wait a minute, that's not even what I thought was gonna happen.
Right, exactly. But the thing about it is there is a scene at the beginning of the movie, and there will be spoilers, guys. You guys should know that. It's at the beginning of the episode, but just to warn everybody, we will be going deeper into details. The subway scene was like the moment where you finally get to see Batman and you get to see him in action, because up until then, it's just a lot of like him talking over what you're seeing happening. Let me paint you a picture, at least try to. So you have Gotham City with just a bunch of, terrible people around inside of it. You have Batman talking over, explaining how he's there, but he's not always there, but everybody thinks he's in the shadows. So even when the signal, we have a signal now, he says, and they show the bat signal. And even when the signal's in the sky, it's basically doing the job of Batman, because all these criminals are looking into like these dark, corners and thinking Batman's there any second to come after him, because they're like graffitiing up stuff, or they're like robbing gas stations, and they just look out a dark window and they're like, look up and they see the bat signal, and then they look down to the darkness and they're like, oh shit, I'm done, I'm out. And then they take off. And I loved that part of it. Before I really get into the subway scene, I really loved that setting up of what this is and who Batman is, because there's no origin story here. Thank God they did what they've done for Spider-Man. They skip an origin story and they say Batman is been in Gotham for a few years. Everybody knows what's up. And what is scary is just the thought of him. That's how this movie puts Batman in the dark instead of the light, right? Like they paint the darkness of Batman, and immediately like, oh, he don't play around. Like everybody in Gotham City knows if Batman comes for you, you're going to pay for it. Yep. Like there's not, I mean, you're not going to get killed. That rule still plays in this movie, but you're going to be next to death. That's what's going to happen. And I loved that like setup of like, oh, we're in a raw Gotham here. Like it's Batman's going to take some shit and he's going to dish it out. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
So
as the skepticism here that I had going in.
Oh, you're skeptic.
My skepticism. Yes, I'm a skeptic. Like when he first started talking and was like doing the voiceover and stuff about it, I was like, are we going to have to listen to this? Like, is this what it's going to be? Like, I didn't know what to expect from the movie. And then like they show the scene and like everybody sees the light and they start turning and running away. And I'm like, oh, people know Batman's a badass. Like you see that, you better just go home, because otherwise he's going to get you. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to open my mind and, not think that it's going to be horrible. Because it wasn't. I was blown away. Like it was a great movie. Even if it wasn't a Batman movie, like it would have been a great movie. Just the writing, the actors, the supporting cast, like it was pretty awesome.
Oh, it was fantastic. All of that is on.
I still can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah, and it's recorded forever. Everybody knows.
Robert Pattinson as the Batman was amazing.
Yep, he really was. And when we get to the scene where there's one particular gentleman that gets off of a train in the subway, and this gang kind of follows him, and they're just initiating another gang member, and they're like, here, and then they hand him like a taser, and they're like, you need to do it, take care of this guy. And the kid kind of hesitates, and when he hesitates, you hear kind of this loud thumping in this like dark corridor over here, and it cuts back 3 or 4 times, and his suit is so black that you can't see him until like the final steps when he's out. And they just kind of take it like, who's this guy, whatever, and he beats the shit out of all of them. Yes, in the most brutal fashion you could imagine. The shots they did and how hard he was hitting them, it did not feel like there was any pulled punches. Like he was laying into all these guys. And that scene was over, and he kind of looks at the last kid, the one they're initiating, and that kid just takes off. Like he doesn't even need to do anything to him.
It's like, nope.
And then this was the other thing about it. The civilian that he just saved is scared shitless too. Like he's like, don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. And Batman says nothing. He says absolutely nothing and leaves. And it's like, Oh my God. Like from that, I'm getting chills thinking about it right now. Cause it was just like, that's how you do it. Like you start a movie out with a voiceover, a couple of pieces of information, and then you just kick it off right away and show what you're going to see. Like you're going to have a Batman that is just so raw and ready and just angry. Like he was angry and it was awesome.
Angry.
And I loved that whole setup at the beginning. It was the first maybe like what 8 or 9 minutes of the movie, maybe
probably
that you finally see him. Then about the 10th minute or so, probably. But for you, like that, did that scene do anything for you the same or?
Not the same. Like I thought it was really cool and it was awesome. Like his suit is black. Yeah. Like you cannot see him. Like I kind of figured like, okay, he's going to beat up these thugs and like the kid's probably going to run away because it kept panning back to the kid that was being initiated. Mm-hmm. And then I guess what surprised me the most was when the civilian was like, don't hurt me. And I'm like, oh, everybody's scared of Batman. Like this is going to be cool.
Yeah, very mean Batman. Like even the civilians are like, "Oh no, he's here." They're not like, "Yes, I'm getting saved by Batman."
No, like, they're like, "Oh god."
Yeah, or like the girls are like, "He's so hot" and all that. You know, like none of that was a thing in this movie. It was like you don't want to fuck with Batman. Like that's just as simple as that. And then as the movie kind of continues, you find out that Batman's been working with the cops. Like he's been with the Gotham PD. Yep. For a couple years, and he is now investigating a murder of the mayor, and you see that happen. We won't get into super details or nothing about that, but you know he is murdered, and then the riddles start. There's duct taped faces. It says "No more lies" and things like this going on, and Batman. You get to see his detective skills, man. Like I was like, I did not think they were going to show.
He's a smart detective too.
Well, Batman's always been a detective. That was the thing. Like, it's always been a huge deal for him to be a detective.
Yeah.
Because, they were called the Detective Comics back then.
Yeah, that's true. They were.
Yeah, excellent. And it was like watching and playing. I play the video games, the Gotham games and stuff like that. Very, very high into the detectives. You actually have to go through and do like forensics on things and check for things and stuff like that. And the comics are that way. And a lot of the movies haven't really done a lot of that. I mean, they did some with, the Christopher Nolan, movies with him trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
But there was never anything Riddler, to figure it out. And Batman Forever did not do a good job of making Batman feel like a detective against that Riddler. No. He was just a moron who would look at, I remember being the age I was and knowing the riddles that he was reading. They were really not clever. And, it had the opportunity, but now with the Riddler is, kind of fully fleshed out in a way of being this just mysterious person, but at the same time, like super, super smart and smart as Batman.
Yeah.
So then you see Batman really show his chops, he sees things that even the detectives don't see. And he doesn't say anything about them, which is the cool part. Like he just kind of walks up to pieces of evidence and looks at them, like the one print on the ground. Yeah. And this other forensic girl that's standing there sees him do it. And she walks like, over. She never even saw it. She's like, no clue. Shit. She was like, oh, she starts taking her pictures of it then. And he knew like, oh, this is the thing that killed the thing, killed the guy and all that kind of stuff. But just to see it not thrown in your face as an audience, not have to be explained. But for me, like just seeing him work with the police department and just use like less than a paragraph worth of words. And they're like,
oh,
no,
shit.
Like,
think about
and then that tells the audience when you're watching, like, he's smart as shit. Yeah. Like he knows what he's doing. Like he doesn't have all this technology he's using or anything either. Mm-hmm. He's literally
just brain smart. Like he's just using his brain.
Yep. He's using the old noggin. And I love that. I thought that was awesome. And it was just done so low key and not thrown in your face. And you got to just see that if you wanted to, you picked it out. And, then the movie kind of kicks into, there's like a murder and he's trying to figure that out. And then there's more murders and but there are people that are missing and he's helping. Then Catwoman gets involved.
Yeah,
she shows up.
Catwoman. She was
Penguin and Catwoman actually kind of happened at the same time.
Yeah.
Um,
By the way, I did not realize who Penguin was until I went back and was looking at the cast, and I was like, "What?
Yeah, Colin Farrell, guys.
Colin Farrell was
Farrell.
Penguin? Like,
you couldn't have told.
No, Pretty
Boy
Colin Farrell. No, like
there was no way.
It was They
had him in a fat suit.
Yeah, I was like, what is going on?
The scars and his makeup and his face, like. Literally, I don't think there was anything on him that was him other than his eyeballs.
Yeah, his eyeballs was about
maybe his teeth. I don't know. I didn't look at his teeth.
I didn't look at his teeth. We'll have to watch it again.
But yes, I mean, we'll talk some Penguin before we get into Batman or Catwoman. Yeah. But he plays like a kind of a minor character in a way. Yeah. Like he's not in the lead role of any kind. And he's more portrayed in this as just kind of like I want to say a henchman in a way.
Yeah, he's definitely more of a henchman than like a starring villain.
Yeah, he's not like a bad guy. Like he's not.
Yeah,
it's almost like they're showing you a little of the curtain pulled back a little bit of what we might see from Penguin, but this is just kind of the beginning of Penguin.
Yeah.
He really struck me as kind of like a Tony Soprano.
Yes.
Okay.
Like the mob. Like, which I think essentially that's what he was like part of the mob.
Part of the
Falcone.
Yeah, the Falcone sort of, underground that was going on. And he was kind of just working for them, but trying to do his own thing. And you really can't tell what he's doing. And that was really cool. But Catwoman now, okay? So who's she's the daughter of again?
Catwoman. It's Zoe Kravitz. She's the daughter of Lenny Kravitz and Lisa Bonet, who was married to Jason Momoa.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Lenny Kravitz is her dad, which is probably the more well-known of her parents. Maybe more people know other people. I don't know. Lenny Kravitz is the one I know more. I don't know who Lisa Monet is or whoever.
She was on the Cosby Show.
Oh, you said that.
Yeah.
That's right. When we were talking about it after the fact. That's right. Yeah. She was the oldest daughter in the Cosby Show. Now I know who she is. I got you now.
I got you.
So yeah, I always need my backup. She's my Robin. I can be Batman. I get to be Batman. I'm wearing black.
I want to be Batman. Oh, I'm not wearing black today.
I'm wearing black. I got it.
Black.
So yeah, I talk about Catwoman. I'm curious on your thoughts on Catwoman.
So Catwoman, Zoe Kravitz. I think she did amazing.
Okay.
So I've always liked Catwoman. Selena Kyle is a badass in her own right in the Batman universe. So, and I'm so spacing her name right now. I can see her face. I can see her name. Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. She was great as Catwoman too. Like she's the bomb as Catwoman. Let's be real here.
That's my Catwoman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I like Catwoman. Zoe Kravitz did great. Like she was also awesome. Like she wasn't as good as Michelle Pfeiffer by any means, but she was way better than Halle Berry. Like we're not even.
We haven't even watched that movie to clarify.
Okay, hold on. I've seen bits and pieces.
Oh, really?
Like stuff online.
Oh,
and like no, I just no.
Not me.
I'm sorry.
What about Anne Hathaway though?
Oh, I forgot about her.
Oh well, then she must not rate, or she just totally doesn't care about it, I guess.
Yeah, she was good, but like again, I will say Anne Hathaway was someone I never imagined being Catwoman because all I can think about with her is like she was in that Les Miserables movie.
Princess Bride's all I can think of. Whatever that. It's not Princess Bride because that's a good movie. So I don't remember what it was called.
So far for me, 3 out of 4 Catwomen have been great. I feel like she definitely in the Batman, Zoe Kravitz, her portrayal, she definitely was her own girl. Like she was not waiting for anybody to help her. She was going to go find her friend, and it didn't matter whether anybody helped her or not.
Yeah, because that was kind of her story role. Is a friend of hers, kind of a Russian model type, disappears, and she's looking for her, and so is Batman. So what do you know? That's how they kind of meet each other, and he picks up on everything, which is really great because literally she came in to serve some drinks and the picture of the model was laying on the table in front of the Penguin. And by the way, guys, Batman goes into the club like straight up Batman. Like he's like,
Yeah.
fuck you. I'm walking in.
He's
I'm
like,
taking this place over.
I'm just coming in as Batman.
I give two shits who
Yep.
you are. And it was great. He goes in, he literally beats the shit out of some people just to get into where he's getting into. And
The
they find,
twins.
yeah, the twins, and then a bunch of other people he has a fight with there as well. And then the Penguin shows up, like, hey, come on, what you doing? Let's do this. And then they talk. So anyway, she has the picture there. She kind of glances at the picture as she sets the drinks down. He saw that shit, and then he was like, got to keep an eye on that girl.
Yep.
She knows something. She
Yep.
knows something. Those are the detective things that I love because I love to pick things out of movies that are not like thrown at you in dialogue or anything. Like I'm the type of guy that can tell that somebody had a pen in their hand in one scene and the next scene it's in the other hand, or it's not there anymore. And I'm like, well, you know, and I love to see those little things. So I love that aspect of the Batman. So I was pretty pumped for that. I thought she was a good Catwoman. I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer's my girl.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with her. She's like my Catwoman because I was like 8 or 9 years old at the time when she was Catwoman. And I'm like, yes, she's awesome. I might've been 10 actually, because I'm thinking it was like a 90, 92 sort of release. But I think her outfit was awesome. Michelle's, Pfeiffer's anyway.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot more leather.
Tons of like skin tight leather, obviously. If you have not
leather.
If you have not seen Batman Returns, it's the most skin tight leather you ever see in your life. But I think it fit for a comic book movie. It was great. And then Anne Hathaway, I thought hers was cool because it was like a techie sort of thiefy Catwoman. Like she was just thieving. She was Robin Hood. Yeah, that's what she was. Yeah. She was stealing from the rich to give to the needy. You know what I mean? And
maybe that's why I kind of forgot about her. Like she didn't play a typical like Catwoman role in that movie.
She didn't, but she was also only in the one movie, and she wasn't
very
like
briefly.
Yeah, and she wasn't in like a huge amount of it or whatever. But the coolest thing of Anne Hathaway's character for me was the ears, man. Like she had the glasses that went up under her head and became ears. I thought that was clever as fuck and loved that. I was like, I wish I could think of that kind of stuff. That was so cool. This Catwoman, her outfit, it didn't do anything for me. I thought it was kind of weird. Like it was basically like a toboggan pulled down over her face and over her nose, and then she just cut a like rectangle out of it.
It didn't hide her identity very well.
It didn't serve a purpose. Yeah, like it was like I can tell who you are right now. Like whatever.
That probably was the weirdest part about it. Like from the neck down, everything was great.
Yeah.
But then like they couldn't figure out what to do with her head, so they just put like a ski mask and cut the top out of it. That's basically kind of what it reminded me of.
Well, they cut a bigger part of the forehead out of it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Not the top of it, but like the eyes and forehead were kind of exposed. And then it had like these little nubby things that were supposed to be your ears, kind of like how it had been sewn or something. So it was clever too, in a way, but it just didn't see the point of it, the purpose of it, how it was like, it was kind of like, putting Superman puts on glasses and takes them off. Like that's Superman. Come on. You know what I mean? So you give it a pass, right? It's a comic book movie. Give it a pass.
Give it a pass.
But they did something different with her as the claws. All the other ones, like Anne Hathaway didn't have like a claw thing. That wasn't her thing. Michelle Pfeiffer had the thymbles and all the sewing tools. They just gave this chick like straight up long ass fingernails, man, and she mess you up with them. She does that at least once in the movie. That she does that to the point where it's like saving grace for her. So I thought that was kind of neat that they made that like kind of a realistic thing. She just grows out long fingernails and is going to F you up with them.
Yep.
And I liked that. But as far as her character goes, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of growth. Honestly, it ends in a cliffhanger. So we hopefully are going to get more, and we'll see her come back. But I wanted to see a little more between the two of them. Is just as far as like not a love connection or anything like that. I think they did that right. I heard that they actually had a sex scene in the movie that was cut out. So thank you for making that decision.
Yes.
Didn't need it. It was done well. I think the way that it was done.
Yep. I agree.
And I think I just wanted a little bit more after they kind of became a team, like they were kind of working together. I wanted a little bit more after that. But it was okay. I would say she was better than Anne Hathaway. But not Michelle, Michelle. Sorry guys. Nice try. But yeah. So when the story continues a little bit further into trying to figure this murder out, You start to learn more about Bruce's background. They kind of talk a little bit more. They kind of let you know on some backstory stuff that happens. The Riddler is like releasing video of things. And this big thing called the renewal. He's talking about the renewal is a lie, which this was a big charity type thing that was set up for the orphans by Thomas Wayne. I mean, Bruce's dad. And this was all set up. And then like a week later, he was killed. So there's like this, what happened? Why did his dad get killed? What's going on? And you learn more about that. And you find out that like there was $1 billion in this renewal fund that he was putting in no matter whether he wanted to be mayor or not. That was kind of the whole concept. And it was going to help like get people into homes and families and like grow Gotham into a better place and, you know, cut out crime and all these things it was meant for, to renew Gotham. And then it kind of became a run for the money. Like once he was dead, everybody wanted that $1 billion and like nobody could find it. Like they were like, where's it at? Like we need,
all the mobsters grabbed it up. You come to find out, like, as per usual in Gotham, there's corruption galore. Like I just don't know what they're doing. It's like there are very few people in Gotham who aren't corrupt. Yeah. But you find out in this movie, there's more than usual. And it's just this big circle. And all of these people, basically, when Thomas Wayne died, it became a money grab. And all of these people started grabbing the renewal fund money.
Yep.
So it didn't go where it was supposed to go.
Nope. It went into the underbelly and the gross underbelly of it. And it was being used for all sorts of terrible things. So the Riddler is trying to expose that, essentially, is what's happening, so that the world knows what happened. But he's also trying to expose the actual underbelly to Batman.
Yep.
And he's kind of helping Batman when you think about it.
In a way, he was. In a really gross, bad way.
It was a pretty awful way.
But yes, he is sort of helping Batman. And like, I did get that sense when we were watching it, like he's trying to show Batman how corrupt Gotham actually is. And like
what he's missing, right?
What he's missing.
That's what I took from it. Like what Batman is missing.
Right.
He knows it's an evil place. He knows that he needs to exist, and he's
kind of telling Batman why it's that way and who is making it that way.
Right. And he kind of leads him on a path with all these riddles that get him into position where he needs to be. And the Riddler's kind of like 2 or 3 steps ahead of him every time. Like he knows, like, okay, if I give him this riddle, he'll end up here.
Right.
And he'll do the thing I need him to do. So he'll know the thing, and then he'll get another riddle. And then again, they just keep repeating that process. And I like that a lot. So I guess before we go too much further into more of the story, speaking of the Riddler, how did you like his look? It was different.
So I felt, okay. So
let's describe the look. So if you guys are still listening and you haven't seen him, he essentially looks like he has like a green bag over his head that has like the mouth cut out and then a piece taped over it. And then he has eye holes and glasses over it.
And he has goggles on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Goggles, glasses.
Do you know what it reminds me of? So, you know, those like old documentaries and old like World War II movies with the pilots and the helmets they had on with the goggles when they were flying the plane. That's what it reminded me of. How they're so like rounded.
Yeah.
And it's.
It reminded me of like early tech, like radiation, like like a radiation.
Yep, like a radiation mask kind of suit, like face mask type thing. Yeah. But like at first I was like, what is this weirdo wearing?
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, he is a weirdo, so this kind of goes with it.
He's a weird guy.
I was like, all right, I get it. Like, it was kind of off-putting, but I think it was supposed to be.
Yes.
Like the Riddler, it just made me uncomfortable, but that's because the Riddler made me uncomfortable because he's supposed to. So yeah, I just kind of felt like it was very old school, like fighter pilot radiation suit type thing, like with the very rounded helmet.
So did you like the look? Did you dislike it? What?
So at first, okay, I don't like it.
You didn't like it,
but I don't think you're supposed to.
Right. Part of it. One of them things that's not told to you.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, okay, I get it. Like, I get why this costume choice was made.
Right.
It's doing what it's supposed to do, even though I don't like it.
It was very minimal. And I think it fit the character because of that. Like, I think he put Okay, so
I mean, I'm glad it wasn't a green suit with a bunch of question marks all over it.
agreed, right? It was not comic book. There's no question marks all over it
No.
anywhere. Like you saw question marks random places.
Mhm.
But I think it was minimal and I think it was on purpose. And this is what I think about it. If I really had to deconstruct it, I think that they were really showing that like he wasn't worried about utility of how he looked and what he did and all these things. He was like mentally so much more powerful and focused on everything else that's where he put all of his attention. He's like, I don't care what my costume looks like. I don't care what my disguise looks like. As long as it hides my face, that's it. So I think he just grabbed the most random shit he had that worked and put it together. And he's like, I'm putting my plan together now.
Yeah.
And then he just ran with the plan because he knew the plan way ahead of his costume.
Mhm.
I just kind of feel like it was something like that.
I think so too. And like you said, being minimalistic, like he was one of those people who slipped through the crack. So he obviously wasn't like, he didn't have access to funds.
Right.
So he probably just used whatever he had.
And time. Like, right. Yeah. The other thing was time. Like, what would he rather spend his time on? Coming up with all these crazy contraptions and riddles for Batman or building some weird costume. You know what I mean? Like, so it all seemed to make sense with the character if you really thought about it that way. And I tend to not too much just deconstruct movies and whatnot. Yeah. But this one just let me, and I was just like having fun with it. It was like, pretty cool. It was just different. So the thing about him, like I'll say, I thought his look fit the movie because of what I just said there. So that's what I'll say. Like, did I like it? I mean, I'm not going to dress like it for Halloween, you know, but
you don't want to be Riddler for Halloween.
I could totally pull it off. I mean, it's super easy, but the thing about him as a character that I think I want to sum up and see if you agree is he really felt like the Joker from Dark Knight. But with more of the like solving of puzzles,
psychoticness to him too.
And I mean, he was crazy. I still think Joker's crazier. And I think if they don't make the Joker crazier, there's something wrong. But the Joker also being smart, they have this, they have similarities, but I feel like the Joker's flashy and he just everything.
Yeah.
The Riddler's not. I feel like that's their one like opposite that really keeps them, you know, differentiated. Exactly. Yeah. And based off of watching The Dark Knight, knowing everything, you know, on that character and how it was written and all of like the plot twists that happened in that, you see that happen in this movie like 4 or 5 times with all the riddles that happen. And he was just always one step ahead, just like Joker was in Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like that sort of feel like, let's make him really, really smart. Let's make him understand Batman, but let's make him like have this kind of brokenness to him that we're all going to know about by the end.
Right.
The Joker ended when in that movie, like he just kind of had no clue.
Right.
You could put an idea on it, but you don't know which one was right. So I think he struck me a lot as the Joker, which in a really good way, by the way. That was the cool part about it, is like he had this ultimate plan that he was trying to pull out and work, and he did, and you know, he made it happen within like 7 days, because I think the movie started and it was like October 31st and it ended in like November 7th or 6th, if I remember right, is because they kind of tell you the dates. So speaking of everything, we're kind of bouncing around here, but this is how it goes. Nobody said this would be in order. Come on.
That's right. We don't have to do it in order. We can do it however we want.
So the voice. Okay. So I talked about the voice at the beginning of Batman. And speaking of like the commentary and talking over, this is the one thing I do remember saying out loud when we were watching it, now that I say it, is he sounded like Rorschach from...
At the beginning you did say that,
yeah,
yes.
From the
Sin
Watchmen.
City. Oh no, yeah, Watchmen.
Yeah, from Watchmen. And...
like the beginning of the movie did give me like a Sin City vibe.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
And so then, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, nobody's gonna judge you on that. Whatever.
Okay, yeah. They're both great movies. Go check them out.
They really are. Watchmen and Sin City, check them out. But yeah, he had that like kind of raspiness to his voice, and it was just kind of like, you know, October 31st.
I didn't even recognize it was his voice, you know, honestly.
Like, yeah, he sounded different. You couldn't have told it was him. You could put, you know, cover somebody's eyes and say who are these people, and you could have played Robert Pattinson and you could have done Batman lines and they would have been like, you know, who's who. But I liked the way he did the voice, because it just seemed like what Keaton did. There wasn't a huge difference between him talking as Batman and him talking as Bruce Wayne. He was just
there wasn't really
he was almost the same, but he still changed his voice for the role because he's acting like he still has to play the character. I do think there was a little difference, and I think you could argue that Keaton changed his voice a little too, but not enough to be like Christian Bale. You know what I mean?
Like this is totally different person talking.
Right.
Yeah.
So just speaking on that before we continue more down the story and stuff, because I was remembering the dates because he's commentating the whole movie, talking about the dates. How did you like his portrayal, voice, acting, all that with Pattinson? I know like performance of the character of Batman, you seem to have liked a lot.
Yeah.
But how he sounded,
his voice sounded good. It fit his character.
Yeah.
I will make one tiny little comment. I didn't care for him as much as Bruce Wayne. But like the Bruce Wayne in this story isn't the same Bruce Wayne that we normally have seen in movies. No. Like he's not the wealthy, playboy,
he's
billionaire.
Wealthy.
He's wealthy, yes.
But he doesn't look wealthy.
And he's not like, different girl on his arm every day, whenever you see him out. And I think we only saw him as Bruce Wayne maybe 4 or 5 times.
Right.
But I don't know. It was just off-putting to me because Bruce Wayne shouldn't look like an emo vampire. I'm saying it.
Hey, say it. Go for
it.
That's
he looked like an emo vampire, like when he was Bruce Wayne. Like he had the dark, like bangs in front of his eyes, like he was some like, teenage kid trying to hide from his mom. Like that is probably the one gripe I'll have with this movie was him as Bruce Wayne.
I do the same thing with Batman as I do with Riddler and most other characters in these movies. When they give me so much to go off of, I start to kind of deconstruct them.
Yeah.
And I feel it was another one of those things. I feel it was a utility situation.
Like I get it. It's the Bruce Wayne for this specific Gotham, because I will say this Gotham is probably the most corrupt Gotham we've seen.
Yeah.
Like I feel like.
Yep.
And so it makes sense that everyone is portrayed darkly, like dark.
Well, not just that is what I'm not really just saying that.
It wasn't.
What I'm saying is like, this is a broken Bruce Wayne. He's broken.
It is.
Like he's completely fucked up. And the thing about it is same as the Riddler. Like the Riddler doesn't have time to make a cool costume and do all this other bullshit because he's got other plans. Well, you know what? Bruce Wayne doesn't have time to be, this flashy whatever because he's Batman. That's the thing I liked so much that I'm just going to say it now because I might as well, because we're running into about a 50 minute mark here. But they made him a seasoned Batman. He's been doing Batman stuff for a couple of years at this point. And it always in my mind, Batman becomes the end goal. Mm-hmm. Like you start with Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne, as he gets older and as he grows and continues, you lose him. Like Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, and then Bruce Wayne's kind of gone. Like he's the bottom guy. Like you don't see or hear about him, and things like this, happen in the comics and everything. To the point where Batman dies, and a lot of people didn't know Bruce Wayne was dead. You know what I mean? They knew he died, but it wasn't like this huge and astronomical thing of like some billionaire that died that did all these things for Gotham.
And they did comment that he is a recluse. Like
right.
They don't ever see Bruce Wayne out. There was one scene where, he comes out, I think it's to a funeral, and everybody's like, oh my God, is that Bruce Wayne? Oh, that's Bruce Wayne. Like Bruce Wayne. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, the Dark Knight, Christian Bale, he was Bruce Wayne every time he turned around. Like that was just part of the story.
And he was younger.
Yeah.
And he was the billionaire playboy. Like, I mean, he did that role right. And this Batman and Bruce Wayne were written to be Batman has a job to do. He knows it. That's his main focus. Mm-hmm. Bruce knows what he has to do. And that is live up to his father's dream. Like he has to do that. And that is his one driving point in this whole movie is that he has to live up to what his father was planning for Gotham. He has to make that happen. And he knows he has to be Batman to do it because he doesn't have any other way of doing it because he's broken. Like the other parts of him that could help, that could be a businessman or could do all these other things are broken because he's lost his family. And I liked it because it was so different.
Yeah.
And I I'm stuttering right now, but I like the fact that I couldn't guess what they were going to go with. I couldn't guess what happened to his family. All these things were just enough different that it kept me interested, and I wasn't just pulling my phone out most of the time.
Yeah,
dealing with like whatever.
It wasn't the same old Batman movie,
right? It wasn't, and the
same story.
You didn't expect a love interest. You didn't expect him to work with the Penguin. You didn't expect all these things to happen, and these cool twists that all ended up happening, toward the end of it and stuff. But I liked his Bruce Wayne a lot, and I liked his Batman a lot because it fit this universe. And I think that is what I like about all of them. So as far as all the Batmans and Bruce Waynes go, is the ones that were done right fit that area of even just the decade. Like it fit the 80s right.
Mm-hmm.
And do I hate Batman and Robin, and do I hate Batman Forever? No, but they're not good movies, but they fit that area. Yeah. They fit the world they put them in. And that's all good, but their performances were garbage. Like they couldn't act right. They, the writing was terrible. All these things were not good about those movies. So that's why they're never going to be on my top lists of any Batman stuff. But it is why I'm going to keep Keaton up there, because it fit. It was well written. It was acted well. It was amazing. And then the same goes with Nolan and Christian Bale, because it was a trilogy that was written on purpose, and it all flowed and it went great, and it had some amazing performances, and I'll always remember them. I saw them all in theaters too. So, which was very cool. I didn't get to do that as a kid with the Keaton movies. And I didn't see this one in theaters for what we've already spoke about, but I wanted to see this in theaters. Like I was ready to go do it. We had that conversation.
We did.
But seeing
this didn't work out.
Yeah, it just didn't. But just seeing this Batman and Bruce Wayne come together in this world, it fits so good, because he had to be committed to Batman in such a hard
to make it
Gotham, like he had to be that. Yeah. Like we talked about at the beginning of the movie.
Character wise that I didn't like it. I just didn't care for
I know you didn't like the look of it and how they made him, overall. But I just think in my brain, like it makes it better because I'm watching a movie called The Batman, and I don't care about Bruce Wayne. Like I not that I don't care about him, but like I want to see the Batman. That's the movie's called
The Batman.
And I got to see a lot of that. It was great.
It was great. I love how the Riddler, when he left the notes, it said to the Batman. Yeah. I was like, that's awesome. That was a good little touch there. I
it was good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. So enough about all the characters and stuff. Now we can get into a little bit more of the story, but we haven't talked enough about action yet. And we talked, about they had the scene in the subway, and we talked a little bit about that, but this movie has a shit ton of action.
Yes, it does. I was a happy girl.
Yes, this girl likes action.
I do.
So it was surprising. I thought 3 hours long. How much are they really going to be able to do? The budget on the movie was a $200 million movie, which is kind of cheap.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah.
So they made their money back, $752 million. They did. But I didn't think there'd be that much action, because action costs money. It costs a lot of money usually.
It usually does. When was this movie made?
It released March 1st.
Like when did they film it? Because did they get a COVID deal? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, I don't know how that all goes. Yeah. But they could have. Anyway. It did. It got affected by the COVID.
The COVID. Yeah. It was worth every penny it cost to make the movie. Yeah. Like the action sequences were very well choreographed. Like it felt like you were watching them really fight. I think I told you my favorite action scene was they're in this hallway and it is pitch black. Like you cannot see anyone except when the guns are firing, and you can see, Batman kicking everybody's ass.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is so well done. Like that was freaking awesome. I was like, that was probably the coolest scene in the whole movie.
He'd grab the gun and they'd fire, and then you'd see him beat the shit out of them.
Like fire go across the hallway,
punching dudes.
Yeah,
they would randomly start firing, try not to kill their partners in the room.
He just kept getting closer and closer and closer to the camera, and you're like, this is so cool.
Taking them out one at a time. Yeah. It was pretty sweet. I liked it a lot. Have no clue how he could see in the dark, but I thought that was still a cool thing. You know what I mean? It was pretty awesome. He's Batman. Come on, he can see in the dark. uh I want to say one thing before I talk about more of my action favorites and whatnot. And that thing is, I loved how low tech this Batman was.
He was really low tech.
Yeah. He had the one high tech thing he had was the contact lens that could record.
Yep.
So there was like these lenses he would pull out, and he gave them to Catwoman at one point in the movie too. But he would pull these things out of his eyes and put them onto this like device, and it would pull everything that was recorded off on, put it onto a screen, so he could watch everything back. So he could like investigate the area of the murder even after he was gone or they kicked him out, you know?
That's why I said how he could remember the details of everything.
Yep. That's what he's telling himself, you know, when he was kind of over voiceovering it all. And that was cool, but it was super low tech, like all of his, you know, batarangs and stuff. He had the batarang in the chest, which came out as a really badass knife thing, which was very cool. And then he had just his grapple shot and stuff, like, you know, that he used to get out of a few situations. He didn't
have a lot of like techie toys.
No, I think he had the one thing that he stuck on the side of a building and he ran down the side of the building, but it was just a rope tether. That's all it was. All of it was very like economical.
Even his motorcycle was like,
it was just kind of a motorcycle. A little bit
now
decked
his
out.
car.
Yeah, we gotta talk about the car later. Yeah. I want to save the Batmobile for later.
Okay. I won't spoil it.
But I did like all of the low tech scenes because they were more believable.
Yeah.
And
it did feel very believable. Like,
yeah,
it was just like, oh yeah, I'm sure somebody could come up with this stuff nowadays. And, you know, as a person who works with eyes, and I know that these things are being created, like there are so many things. It's like,
even the higher tech stuff could possibly be a thing. Yeah, exactly. I was in that level of like the Dark Knight series for sure. But the thing about it too is cool that you feel like you could be Batman. You know, that's the whole thing. Like, oh man, yeah, I can go buy a grapple shot. I could do that thing.
I can run down a building.
Yeah, exactly. So I liked it a lot. There was only one particular scene to me that seemed just too unbelievable that I wish they would have changed a little bit. And it's clear at the end. I'll explain the scene, but he's in the police station and him and Gordon work out a plan for him to escape because they've actually captured him at this point and cuffed him and whatnot. Well, he gets him out of the cuffs and then he gives him the key to go upstairs to this, you know, one specific door. And he runs through the police station. Such a great, all the stuff where he does in the cop stations and what he does in the clubs are so great because he's in full suit and he's just being running. Batman. It's awesome. No CG shit or anything. And he gets to the stairwell corridor area and like you look up and it's like a spiral staircase. So there's like this enormous, probably 50-story spiral staircase, and he shoots the grapple like 50 stories in the air and then he makes his way all the way out. I'm like, yeah, that's a little too far for me, but it was a very cool scene. I liked it a lot. But it was definitely leaning hard into the comics instead of the realistic side of it, which is fine. Wasn't picking it apart. It was just one of the things I was like, okay, but he flew really fast up that thing.
Was really fast.
All trying to shoot him. And they, you know, they're hitting him too, but he's got like this cool armor on that just like ricochets bullets and shit. It's just badass. And he gets away. Then that leads me to what was my favorite action scene, which I have not talked to you about yet. You told me yours. And that is he uses like a legit wingsuit, like legit real, you could believe.
You could go buy one if you had the funds.
Now, how it came out of his suit, I don't know, because it happened really quickly and I do want to watch this movie again. But he does like some kind of a crazy, he like lifts his arm up and he does this like rip sort of deal. And like all of a sudden it's like under his arms and wrapped around him. And then he just has to zip it up and then he like folds it over his chest. And now he has like these wings, you know, like a big flying squirrel would have, you know, and he jumps off this, like, it probably was more than 50 stories. Honestly, it was probably a 100-story building. And he jumps off the top of it, off of like he's on a gargoyle, you know, it's all kind of badass and stuff. And he freaking flies and he's flying fast as shit. He has no brakes. You know what I mean?
No, like, I'm like, how's he going to stop?
He makes his way to the train that's like kind of running beneath. There was a bus. Actually, it was a bus going under a train track because there was an above train track. And he throws the chute that he has just to slow him down. And he lands on top of the bus. And then like he eats shit like 6 times.
Like, it was very believable because he pulled his shoe and then he got caught on the overhang of the train and slammed onto the bus and then fell on the ground.
Well, yeah, because his chute got caught onto the train and then he flung up into the underneath of the train track, bounced onto the bus, and then he ran into a dumpster and like he rolls.
It just made it more believable because like it didn't work out perfectly for him. Like it was magic.
It wasn't as kiddie and jokey and tongue in cheeky as like Spider-Man 2, where he tries to jump the gap and he lands and misses.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, my back. Yeah. You know, and he stands up. It was a little bit like that, but just more gritty because he stands up at the end. He's like, "Oh God." Oh, like, I mean, he's got the shit kicked out of him now because he just jumped 100 stories and survived, you know, with no parachute. Like he had no parachute. He just had this like brake thing that he threw out. That was a miniature parachute. I love that scene. I thought it was so cool because they were like really close up on his, on the camera was real close up on his face. And it was just like he was literally flying like 100 miles an hour through this, you know, city it was only a block wide. So he had to like control a little bit of where he was. And he was coming really close to buildings and shit. It was so cool. I really, really liked that a lot. And then probably the other part I really enjoyed, I did enjoy your scene too, you mentioned, which was really great. The other one was just a really kick-ass moment where he sets off like a bunch of bombs and he falls in from the sky, this big skylight, and just has like kind of a cool hero landing and shit. I really like that too. It just kind of showed how badass he was, and you're all kind of fucked now, you know?
Batman's here now.
Yeah, it was awesome. All right, so more action. We got to save it for last. It's one of the big things in the action point of the movie. And that is the Batmobile.
The badass Batmobile.
That thing it was short-lived on screen, but man, did it make up for it in that scene. That whole action sequence was amazing. I loved how they shot that whole chase scene. It felt like we were like in a Fast and the Furious movie or something. Like
you're like in the car watching it, almost like being a part of it.
It was cool.
Down in the action.
And even in when like they were using cranes or something to shoot it, and it would like pan out and you would just see the vehicles, and then it would like zoom left and right and you'd kind of follow a vehicle, but then you end up on the other side of it. And like the camera was around the car, and it was very stylized, but it was a super quick sequence. It was very cool though with you know, they do find, you know, one of the Russian girl that we were talking about. They find her body in this whole part, and the Batman is like on the ground. He's just been lit up with a bunch of bullets, but he's not dead. And he disappears. They go to find Catwoman, and as they're sneaking around the car looking for her because she's hiding, you hear the car turn on first off, like, and then you see just like these lights kind of come on the front of it, and you just see like the outline of it because it's like it's in an alley and there's like the smoke behind it, and like there's like a light kind of making, you know, the shadow to where you can see the outline, and yeah, it's all dark around it, and they're like, you know, they're all kind of looking like, what the hell is this?
What?
And then the camera kind of goes behind it and shows that jet engine. It's a rear engine vehicle. And it's just got that 5-foot fire coming out of the back of it. Similar to the 1989 Batman, except like more of that blue flame fire. Like this thing's hot.
More high-tech flame.
And he just kind of revs the engine in drive, like power brakes it kind of, and it moves like a foot, and like all the guys take off running. Like they're done. They're like, oh shit,
we're out.
And then the Penguin, he's in pursuit of the Penguin now, because the Penguin has taken off in his vehicle, and there commences the chase scene with a bunch of like crashes and explosions, and it doesn't have any tech on it. Like I don't remember any tech at all. It was just a hard ass muscle car. It was very cool. They do sneak peek it a little bit in the beginning of the movie. It's under a sheath, like some kind of a big car cover, and you can tell, okay, there's this Batmobile, but you can't see it. And then later it kind of pops up in this alley. So we rated Batmans and talked about Batmans. Well, let's talk about Batmobiles and then rate some Batmobiles and see where they come out. Right. Yeah. So obviously you have the 66 Batmobile, you know, the open top, double domed open top. I think that was like a Ford Fairlane or something I remember reading about. Essentially just a modified Ford Fairlane. Then we have the 1989 Batman, which is just an enormous car, all front end in that baby. That thing is just a big vehicle.
Yep.
Very, very cool though. It's iconic. Like I think that's probably the most iconic Batmobile.
That's the one I think of when people talk about Batmobile. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yep. And I don't know what it is about that. Like maybe just the age I was or whatever, but I don't know. I still feel like if you showed that to a kid and didn't tell them whose car it was, they'd be like,
know.
That's the Batmobile. That's Batman's car.
Yeah.
I feel like if you handed them any of the other ones, except for the blatant one from 66 has a big Batman logo on the side of it. They probably wouldn't know. Like I feel like they like, especially like the Batman Forever, when they changed it, they couldn't have done a worse job of going from one of the coolest cars to one of the stupidest cars, because it had like the single big fin down the middle. It's like, how is that even related to a bat at all?
That's more like a shark.
Yeah, exactly. And then they had and all the lights and shit on it that like lit up and spun. And the wheels were big bat logos. So I guess kids would probably realize that's it too. There's just a big bat logo that didn't spin and just lit up. It's like Joel Schumacher, man. You made some stuff people enjoyed, I bet. But boy,
Batmobile was not one of them.
The Batmobile, if you designed it, not good. And those movies you butchered. And then we have Batman and Robbins, where it was like the dual fin. Again, it's back again, but now it has this weird ass like open top, like no roof. Batman's like out in the open, like he's driving a fucking go-kart or something, like it was just so bad. And then we get to the Christian Bale Batmobile. Which was cool. I mean, it was like the tank.
It was very tactical.
Yeah, and I'm totally spacing what its name was, but it was very cool at the time, though. I don't know what it was. Like it was like, holy shit, this is a really cool car. And then Tumbler. It was the Tumbler.
Tumbler. That's it.
Yeah,
isn't it? And that's the one that the motorcycle would come out of.
Yeah, he did. He did that on a Dark Knight. Yeah,
you're like, ooh,
which took it to another level.
Yes,
and I will have to say, I definitely liked the motorcycle more than the Tumbler. I thought the motorcycle was so cool. The
motorcycle was much cooler than the Tumbler.
Yeah. It had the super cool effect.
I just remember the sound of the wheel.
Yeah. And it had that super cool fact though that it like came out of the Batmobile, of the Tumbler, and it was like just the front two wheels somehow just went from left to right to in front of each other.
Yeah, and then they were the motorcycle.
Now it was a motorcycle, which was a really cool sequence. That was one of my favorite parts of that movie.
Funny how like you can just think of things and you can hear the sounds of them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like I hear the motorcycle now and it's like, what?
Yeah, his cape blowing in the wind, and that thing was real. He could really drive as a real motorcycle. Oh yeah,
turns it.
Yep, that was a pretty cool scene as well. And the Joker, come on. Yeah, it was good stuff. And then we get to the old Batfleck. His Batmobile was cool too. Fast. It was kind of like a combination of like 89 Batman and the Tumbler, kind of together. It was a longer style Batmobile.
It was more tankish.
But it was tankish. Yeah. But
Aquaman rode on it.
Yeah, Aquaman rode on it. It had kind of a weird layout with the wheels, how the wheels were like kind of on their own out. Like they weren't like encased in the body. They were just out there. So definitely different in its own right. But I did like it. I do remember liking that one quite a bit. Even though they kind of live in their own universe, it's still pretty cool Batmobile. And then we get to this newest one with the Batman and Pattinson. Battinson, maybe that's the new
Battinson. Ooh, there we go.
His kind of it's just like a Camaro. It's like an old school muscle car that he's just kind of armored up.
I liked it.
I liked it a lot.
I did too.
Like way more than I thought.
And the like throatiness of it and the sound, I was like, oh, that's a badass. It
sounded like a car that you could go and make it sound
like I want to drive it up and down the road and just be like, look at my badass car.
And this is kind of the theme of the podcast, is just how brutal and punchy everything was for this movie. But I kind of felt that way about the Batmobile. Like it felt like as soon as I tapped the gas, I'm at 100 mile an hour.
Yeah.
Like it was just so mean and like scary and, angry. Like it was just like Batman. It was an angry car. Let's
like,
go.
Yep. And that totally makes sense. Like everything in the movie like is angry because he's so angry.
Yeah.
And it just made for such
the Riddler was angry.
The Riddler was everyone was angry
in a different way, but he was angry. The Penguin had his moments where he was very angry, screaming and yelling, and
the only people who weren't really angry, well, spoiler here, most of them ended up dead. So
yeah, it's true.
If they were living high on the hog, they pretty much ended up dead.
Yep, they really did. But yeah, overall Batmobile, if you had to just do number one, why not number one? Favorite, do two. Why not? You always gotta have a runner up, right? Three, you might,
you just list them all in
you might just do all six or whatever, 7 of them.
It's really hard for me because I did really like the Tumbler.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I'm a very action forward kind of gal. Mm-hmm. So
you got a lot of that with the Tumbler.
I know. But then, like, the one from the Batman, it was just like a car that I liked.
Yeah.
Like, because it's like a muscle car that's throaty and sounds mean. So that one's hard. Okay, I'm going to give props to the Tumbler just because it came with a built-in motorcycle.
Yeah, it's like 2 in 1.
Yeah, it's like 2 in 1. 2 for 1.
That's a good choice. That's a good choice. No, I don't think anybody would fault you for that. It's a really awesome Batmobile. My number one is probably always going to be the 1989 Batmobile. Keaton.
I knew that.
Yeah, Keaton's awesome. I mean, though I have one scene in my head, and this might be one of the weirdest scenes to keep in my head all the time. I always loved about the Batmobile that will never go away, and it was from Batman Returns, and it was the scene where he is slowly driving it down the road in the snow, looking at the Penguin, and the snow is melting off the tires.
Yeah.
Like you're just like, the car is so awesome. Like, and it's just literally just melting the snow out of the way, as the tires go. And in that scene from the rear and like the fires there and everything, it was just super, super cool. And it did cool shit too. It was one of the coolest things as a kid ever to see when they had jerry rigged the remote control on it from the Penguin, and all the circus clowns and stuff did. And they were controlling it while he was in it.
Yeah.
And he found the thing, ripped it off, and then he hit the button to try to shrink it, and it wasn't working. And he's heading toward that little cut in the alley that he was trying to get down, not get away from the cops. And it wasn't working. He's just like, keeps smashing the button as much as he can. And he's like, well, now I'm getting a little worried. And then he smashes it one more time and it works. And the whole car turns into like a bullet. Like it's like a tenth of the size it was. The wheels all go in together. It was a lot like what the Tumbler did with the motorcycle, because it kind of turned into like a motorcycle, but it was enclosed. And I thought that was super cool as a kid, and probably way ahead of its time for like the thought of whoever did that, which was very, very neat. But I like that a lot. I think about that all the time that's a really cool scene.
Yeah.
That Batmobile it will never not be cool.
No.
As far as I'm concerned.
I don't think it will ever
timeless.
Not be your number one.
Yeah, it would take a lot to beat it.
See, the Tumbler, I would be like, okay, we're at war, we got to be out in the Tumbler.
Mm-hmm.
The Batmobile would be like, all right, it's date night, let's go out in the Batmobile.
Yeah, date night. Yeah. I like that idea. That's good stuff. We got to get one of those and grab some attention on date night. You can be Catwoman, I'll be Batman.
Okay.
But yeah, if I had to pick a second one, I would have to go with the Tumbler. And the reason being is you made a good point. You get a lot of action out of that thing. And it was so cool in the first movie to watch that thing jumping from,
oh my gosh,
from rooftop to rooftop. It's like, it's flying on rooftops, like it was just, it was so cool. And then, obviously then they kicked it up a notch and blew it up in the second movie, but they turned it into a motorcycle, and you got the Bat Cycle, which was awesome.
2 for 1.
Yeah. And then the Batman's muscle car, Batmobile, whatever it is. I don't think they actually gave it like any sort of name or anything. I know they didn't in the movie, and I looked online and I just saw nothing, but man, it was awesome. I really, really liked it. It didn't do anything spectacular, but was really fast,
still cool,
and got its job done. It got him where he needed to get to in a very angry fashion, and I loved it.
People were still scared of it.
Yes, they were. It took one rev of the engine, and they were like, "I'm done.
I'm out."
This guy has a car. Oh shit! It was very, very cool. I was really into the story. I did enjoy it a lot more than I thought I was going to. So props to Christopher Reeves and everybody on the team, or Matthew Reeves. I'm sorry.
Reeves, yeah.
Christopher Reeves is Superman, guys. Superman. He's badass too. Thank you to him for being Superman. But for Matt Reeves, there was a lot of turmoil and a lot of scuttlebutt in the backgrounds as this being made, and him being really hard to work with and whatnot. I think it paid off. Usually when you have to deal, more workout and, everything, it makes it for a better product usually in the end.
Mm-hmm. Usually.
And I'm glad it was a better product, and I'm glad we got a really good Batman. I don't think we'll talk too much in the spoilers of everything that the Riddler was doing. We talked a little bit, it kind of touched on them. We didn't go too crazy deep, but running a little long on a podcast too. You guys are listening to us babble on about Batman.
I can't believe we haven't talked about this, but what did you think of Gordon?
Oh, and I'm terrible with names.
Jeffrey Wright.
Okay, Jeffrey Wright. I see it now. I mean, he's Bernard from Westworld, and I love the guy. Like, he's great. He has just a cool demeanor. Mm-hmm. Like, he's got a really cool voice.
He wasn't in it that much though. Like he was
a good Gordon too.
But I felt like I could have had a little more. Well, but I am a big fan of Jeffrey Wright.
That's what I was gonna say. About anything you like, you always want more of it, right? He was great. I really liked him a lot. I remember seeing pictures of him being Gordon and thinking like, ooh boy, like maybe. And then, to see that he wasn't Commissioner Gordon yet. Yeah. Like they did the same thing as the Batman Begins, he kind of works his way up. Yep. Maybe in the next movie, he'll be Commissioner Gordon, but he's a good cop, and they play the whole thing, He
is one of the few good cops.
And Batman tells him that, you're a good cop. And then he goes and does his shit.
So this movie wasn't very funny. Like, it wasn't meant to be like a comedy, but I will say Gordon and Batman, they played off each other very well. In the scene you were talking about where he gave him the key to escape prison and he punches him, Batman punches Gordon, and then they meet up again, and Gordon tells the Batman you could have pulled your punch, and he's like, I did. And I was like, Batman.
And then Gordon's like, you can probably imagine what he's thinking, oh shit, you pulled that punch? Oh my. Yeah, because he laid him out. Yeah, it was pretty great.
Yeah.
But speaking of Westworld as well, I do want to talk about the music now that you mentioned that, because that totally reminded me. There was Westworld vibes to the music in this, a lot of orchestral stuff going on. What was the other movie? I think we mentioned it after we watched it, that there were it sounded like other, what did you say? It was another show or another. Oh, you said it sounded like, who was the character? You said it sounded like their music. Was it Catwoman
It was Catwoman from
89 or 92.
Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman.
And you're right.
Had that very
because it was really,
I kept waiting for her to come on screen. Where's she at? Where's the girl at?
It really did. So if you guys hear that when you listen to it, let us know if you agree with that too, because when she had said that, I was paying attention.
You just got me excited. I was like, ooh.
You could hear it too. And it wasn't just at Catwoman scenes or anything. It was just throughout the movie.
Whole movie.
It was definitely very well done. The music really got you into the grittiness and the underworld vibes of what was going on. And it was just these wee sort of things going on at times for the mystery side of it with the Riddler. But that kind of catch you off guard sort of thing too. You start listening to it, you're like, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
And I liked it a lot. The music was really, really good.
It was.
And it was it didn't have to have a Batman theme or anything like that. It was just,
there wasn't. There wasn't.
Never happened, not once. And I was into it. So yeah, we didn't have that. We didn't have any whams and pals and bangs or anything. I'm sure somebody could add that on the internet.
The bat soup.
Yeah, right. So we obviously really, really loved it. Way more than we both expected, I think.
Oh yes. For me, for sure.
I was gonna say Heather went in much lower expectations.
I was we're gonna watch this 3-hour movie and it's gonna probably suck. And then I was like, oh, this is really good.
But for anybody out there just listening to the podcast or watching us on YouTube, if you're not familiar with me, I'm usually the guy who goes in with hope. I go into a movie hoping for a good movie. So meaning that I went in for a good movie and I came out with way better of a movie than I thought. Yeah, that's really good, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, for Heather to go in with zero expectations, and
That's
you
pretty
know,
normal. If I feel like a movie is going to be really dumb, I'm like, do we really have to watch it? And then a lot of times we watch it and I'm like, that movie was really bad and I told you it was going to be. And then you have ones like this or the hidden gem and you're like, oh my God, that movie was so good. Let's watch it again.
Well, I told you so on this one. Just
I know.
For the record.
I know.
For the record.
Hey, from the moment they announced who was playing Batman, I've done nothing but dog and make fun of this movie. I will admit. Like,
she has.
I'm like, this is gonna be so stupid.
Yeah.
But as a supporting wife, I was like, let's go see it. Like, we'll go in theaters. It just didn't work out. So the other night, he's like, hey, it's on HBO Max. Let's watch it. And I'm like, all right, let's watch it.
The day it came out
The
was
day it came out.
HBO Max. It was us.
And now I'm like,
night.
when can we watch it again?
Yeah. So I'll take that win. I like getting the W's. That's what I'm talking about. And hopefully you guys all like it as well. If you've already seen it and you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. Like, that's a big thing for us. We want to do that. So hit us up on our Discord. You'll find that down in any of the little comments and descriptions down there. It's a opened invite. Hit it up. Come say hey and talk in the movie reel or our gaming podcast or whatever you'd like to talk about. But go get HBO Max for like 15 or $10 if you want and watch this movie. You will not regret it. And as long as you have 3 hours available, that's probably the biggest thing you're gonna have to give up, because then after the fact, you're gonna have like a pretty amazing like movie you've watched and some good stories to talk about with your buddies, hopefully. And I know I did that the day after I watched it. I went to work and I talked with some of my buddies at work that I knew saw it in theaters, and I was just like, man, I really wanted to see it on the big screen. It was going to be an IMAX, but kids and life, things happen. And maybe they'll do a re-release some other time and I can do that. But let's talk Batman. Anything Batman. You can tell we've seen them all. We do enjoy them. I have played all the video games as well. So we have a lot of Batman stuff we can talk about. And I think that is it for this episode. So thank you to my lovely wife again for coming on. And thanks for giving me the W. I'll take it. I'll take that. All right. Hey, until next time, guys, stay loud.